I mean, listen, it doesn't get any bigger than Sky Sports in the UK. I've had some great experiences fighting on Sky in the past, and now to be partnering with them officially is it's amazing. And there's some big fights to be made out there, and for them to be on Sky Sports is going to be an awesome opportunity.
I mean, you mentioned those big fights. I mean, what is your kind of aim over the next kind of 12 to 18 months? I imagine it's to kind of put the foot down and get some big fights lined up.
Yeah, I mean, we've got a fun fight October 2nd, just to get me back into the swing of things. I had COVID, and I had some family issues over the last month or so. So, we've got a good comeback fight here. And then after that, we got to get a world title at the end of the year. We're looking at December. I think there's some great fights to be made at middleweight. I've recently been made I think mandatory challenger for the WBA superior belt after they took the interim titles away. So yeah, we're going to be pushing hard for these big fights. End of the year.
Wally, I think you've got your hand up.
Yeah, Chris, what's been the deal with those WBA belts? Because you obviously spent a lot of money paying the sanctioning fees. Do you get all them refunded?
You know what? I didn't even think about that, but you're absolutely right. I'm going to be requesting my money back for that. I have no idea why that happened. But I'm hoping that it's a blessing in disguise, and that it forces these guys with the main belts to have to fight me soon. So we'll see what happens.
Right. Oh, sorry, go ahead. Go ahead, Wally.
When you look at, I mean, would it only be a world title that you'd be interested in? I mean, a lot of people have wanted to see you rematch Billy Joe Saunders for a long time. Not many people are going to want to fight him now he doesn't have a belt. Is he still on your radar or completely off of it now?
I mean, he's not on my radar, but that's not to say that I wouldn't fight him again, because I would, because of the interest in the boxing world. He isn't on the radar, but if that fight can be made, obviously I'm all ears. World title fights or fights that the public are demanding, or the public are going to be super interested in. We're seeing these days now that belts don't actually have to be on the line for these huge cards and these pay-per-view events to go ahead. We just saw Jake Paul fight Tyron Woodley on pay-per-view, and obviously there's no belt there, but so it's the landscape is changing. What it means to be a pay-per-view fighter is changing. So in that sense, if there is an opportunity to fight, a big name that maybe it wasn't for a title, then yes, I would accept that route also. Yeah.
Thanks very much.
Rob?
Yeah. Hiya, Chris. First off, massive sympathy and respect for what you and your family have gone through the last sort of couple of months. Your dad was essentially took Matchroom and Barry Hearn to Sky. Is that something you've spoken about in the last few, when you signing for Sky, that, was it 25, 27 years after him, took a jump from ITV to there, that you're going with them as well, and now they're sort of like standard bearer?
Well, I guess this kind of is history repeating itself. My father, he walked this route all those years ago, and now I'm pretty much in the same position, launching this new era of boxing on Sky Sports. So it's a very cool, it's a very exciting situation I found myself in. This time last year, I would not have expected to for any of this to be happening. I was actually with an American promotional company in Showtime and PBC, and then so that was the route I was going down, and then COVID hit, and things kind of weren't progressing how I wanted. So I came back to the UK, signed with the Salem brothers and Wasserman, and now they have joined forces with Sky and Boxer. So it's funny how the world and how life works. But I think everything happens for a reason, and I think now I'm on the right path.
Do you think it's super middleweight is it for you now, or do you think middleweight is still a good possibility?
No, I mean middleweight is what I'm at. It is where I'm at. I'm not at super middleweight. I'm looking at middleweight fights for the foreseeable future. The only fight that I would move back up to super middleweight for is Canelo Alvarez. Aside from him, there's no real reason for me to go and fight these naturally bigger guys. I'm not a natural super middleweight, and there's some great names at middleweight, so that's what we're going to be campaigning at.
So now he's gone up to super middle. Who do you think's top of the tree at middleweight?
Who do you think I think is at the top of the tree?
Charlo? I mean that's someone you would have moved close to at your time of PBC, isn't it? But obviously they moved another way.
Listen, if you're going to ask me who I think is the best middleweight in the world right now,
you. Oh. I think so. Yeah.
There are a lot of good fighters at middleweight, and there's a lot of there's a lot of world titles that are in my grasp in terms of getting in and contesting for, but I don't see any of these guys beating me.
Thanks, Chris.
Danny?
Hey Chris, just to echo what Ron said, I'm sure we're all very, very sorry for your loss. Wanted to ask you, the Top Rank deal with Sky, they've got Ryuto Murata, who's the WBA super champion. As you mentioned, you're now the mandatory contender for that title. So was Sky having a link with Top Rank and with Murata by extension, did that factor into your decision?
I guess it did, yeah. That fight will now be easier to be made, coupled with the fact that the WBA has now got rid of these interim belts and it has made me mandatory challenger. That's the fights should be pretty much done. That I don't see how it could not happen now. So it's just up to my promoters now and Sky Sports to put it together.
And if it does come together, how important would it be to you to get that fight here in the UK rather than potentially travelling over to Japan? Or would that maybe excite you?
Would it excite me? I wouldn't say it would excite me. I'm not the type of guy that is excited or worried about fighting in anywhere. It doesn't matter if I'm in the backyard or if I'm a home crowd. But obviously, I want a fair playing field. He's going to have probably a big advantage fighting in Japan. So that is a risk. So I prefer somewhere neutral. It doesn't have to be in the UK. I would love for it to be in the UK. But if it wasn't here, then somewhere neutral would be preferable.